So hey everyone, and in this video we are going to learn about CSS. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It is a style sheet language that is used to describe the presentation and formatting of a document written in HTML or XML. So in simple terms, CSS is used to control the visual representation of the web pages. If you open any website and you just see the design, the decoration, the color, the size of the elements, the size of the images, the size of the text, and how the animation works, all these actually happen because of CSS. So without CSS, any website is not a website, okay? Because nowadays visual representation is everything. If your website doesn't look good, then my friend, you are not a good developer. Okay, so the knowledge of CSS is very important, and a lot of my friends and especially people who are in development actually don't learn that much CSS, and they try to build good UI using Bootstrap or Tailwind or other kind of frameworks which we have shortcuts for CSS. But these shortcuts have some limitations, and it's always recommended to first of all learn the root thing first. Later on you can just use some functionalities of Tailwind or Bootstrap later on along with your normal CSS. So that's the best combination. But initially when you are starting with web dev, you have learned HTML, and when you start learning CSS, please complete it at whatever cost you can, because CSS is something which you're going to use again and again, and especially if you are becoming a merge stack developer. And in React.js, especially in React.js, we actually use CSS a lot, okay? Directly the same exact code of CSS a lot. So it's always recommended to learn CSS, fully learn CSS. So it's always recommended to learn CSS completely. Alright, so let's begin with our tutorial, and today I'm gonna explain some basic terminologies. I won't be able to complete the CSS, like it would actually take a few days. So I'm assuming that a lot of people actually know CSS and it's taken as a revision, okay? So please take this session as the revision, and I'm gonna explain very important things which you must know in CSS. Then you can continue with the JavaScript. So let's begin. Okay guys, so here I'm gonna create a new folder, and here I'm simply going to write CSS, because here we are going to write all the CSS code along with the HTML which we have learned before. The basics of HTML we have already covered, and all the important part of HTML has been covered in previous video, a single one short video you can say. But it's always recommended to actually give it some time. If you are a beginner in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, please give it at least 2-3 weeks to actually master those skills. Then after that, jump on merge stack, okay? But what I'm trying to do is I'll be taking first 3 sections, that is we already took HTML, now we are studying CSS. Similarly, we would also study JavaScript, and usually they are around 1 hour each. So they would actually cover all your revision part of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all the important things which you would use in merge stack. But yeah, it's always recommended, please learn them separately from any source you like. Please learn them completely, okay? So this video is just for revision and would cover up your basics, right? So here I'm simply going to create a HTML file, and actually I'll just right click and open with VS Code. So I hope everyone has followed my installation video of VS Code. I've already created a separate video, please watch that. So guys, here you can see we have the CSS folder, right? So inside this I'm gonna create a new file, and or I'll just say let's create a new folder, and I'll just say its name is my pj1, that is project 1, and you can give any other name. Now I'm going to create my index.html file. So this is my HTML file, right? And let's use this boilerplate shortcut. So it's actually shift and exclamation sign, then you would get somewhat this kind of shortcut. Okay, so now guys, you can see that this is a very basic HTML page, and what I am trying to do is, for example, you have a h1 tag, okay, and you would say this is a h1 tag, okay? And now let's try to run this. So if I want to run this, we have previously installed live server extension. If you don't know what it is, you can simply search for live server. You would get an extension like this, and you just need to install this. Once you install this, you would get a go live option here. Okay, so please click on go live, and then it would actually start your website into a local server. So you can see I'm getting the heading. This is the h1 tag. Okay, so you can see it looks fine. Okay guys, so I'll repeat again. What is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and CSS actually defines how the HTML elements, like any kind of tag, would be decorated, how it would look, how the color would be there, how the design would be there, how the border would be there, and where would the element be placed. All it's actually happened because of CSS. Okay, so it actually you can say, like, you can try this on your own and you can perform different styles, but we are gonna learn some of them which are really important. Okay, so let's first of all understand what is the syntax of CSS. So here itself I'm gonna write a comment. Okay, or I'll just say that, let's say, wherever you write CSS, for example, if you are writing the CSS into HTML page, okay, first of all there are some methods of actually writing CSS. First method is a very easiest method. What you can do is, here itself in the h1 I'm simply going to write style. Okay, then inside this, guys, you can actually write the CSS property. Okay, so you can see I've given a CSS property named as display block. Okay, instead of this you can get other property also. Right now you don't need to understand this property, but yeah, if you know this property then that's great, but if you don't know, we'll cover all of them. And similarly, if I say that the color is aqua, so you can see now I'm actually able to give some CSS. Similarly, you can add all the properties like this. But for example, you have a few more h1 tags which actually use same properties, and there is a lot more CSS similar to this in the same line or in the same element. So the problem is you are writing too much code here. Okay, so that's the problem. But if it was only one h1 tag and it had a unique styling, so you can give it here. Okay, so the first issue was you can't just give directly styles. If you have a lot of elements, it would waste of a lot of lines. You can see similar styles in every h1. So for that we actually use classes and id, and for that what you actually can do is you can just come here and just write the style tag first of all. Okay, so this is the second method for defining CSS. So you can see inside the style method we actually write the complete CSS. Okay, so right now guys, I'm gonna remove the CSS from other elements. Okay, I'm gonna remove the CSS from other elements, and then you would see some changes. Okay, so right now I'm going to assume that this h1 tag had this unique styling, and instead of this block I'm gonna say that we have font size property, and I'm gonna say font size is suppose 10 pixel. Okay, so you can see I've actually given some font size, and if I reload you can see this is the small font size. Let me just give it a dark color. I would just say that it's actually blue color. Okay, so I'm just gonna give blue color, so it's actually dark. Okay, now similar to this, I want to style this h1 tag and this h1 tag with some common styling. So what I can actually do is I can actually give this class as my h1. Okay, and similar to this you can give any other name. Similar to this, suppose I want this element to have the same class. Okay, so you can give same class to any number of elements, but the id must be unique. For example, this id of this h1 is suppose id1. Okay, I'm just giving a random name. You can give any string here. Similar to this, guys, suppose we have one more h1 tag, but you can see this h1 tag is also having id1. This is not actually allowed in CSS, although it would work, but this is not allowed in HTML CSS. So please make sure you have unique IDs, because when you are targeting elements in JavaScript, okay, for example, you are writing some code in HTML CSS, then you are manipulating the website using JavaScript. So what actually happens is JavaScript would be bringing data from backend and would be showing it into your HTML page. For example, you are viewing your profile, user profile in Instagram. So you see that different fields show your different data, username, email, profile picture, like that. So for that, each unique element would have a unique ID, so that that space can be identified. That means JavaScript would identify, yeah, this in this ID I want to show profile picture, in this ID I want to show username. So the ID must always be unique. So that's how JavaScript would easily identify things. Okay, so it's always recommended, if someone is having ID1, please don't repeat this ID on other elements. Okay, that's it. But yeah, you can repeat classes. You can say I've given this class as my h1, similarly my h1. Okay, so first thing, now inside style tag, let me just first of all explain you the CSS writing syntax. So in actually in CSS, what you actually do is, for example, I'm gonna say that we have my h1 class. Okay, so inside my h1 class, if you want to give any property, so first of all, you actually, I'm gonna just pass control and forward slash, so you can see I got a comment. So that's how you can actually make a comment in CSS also. So here you can see right now, if you want to give any property, any kind of property, so first we give the property name like color, font size, etc. Then we pass a colon sign, this is a colon sign, then you give the value. Now to end this, that means you have written complete property, you need to pass semicolon sign. Similarly, if you want to write another property, you would do the same thing. Okay, you would do the same thing. Okay, so as many lines you can use, as many lines you can. It's not compulsory to write in everything in a single line. You can give enters also, it's totally fine. Like here also, if I try to give enter, you can see it's totally fine. Okay, so first thing, now let's try to understand some properties. So guys, here I can actually say that since this is a match1 tag, I want to give it some properties. So I'll just say that suppose I want to give this class of color red, so you can see I have color red. Okay, similarly you can give more properties, but you can see since I've only given the classes to this and this, that is my h1 is only available here and here, so this is simply reflecting the properties on the two elements. Okay, so if you give property to this, that is color red, then it's targeted, then obviously you would be getting color red in these two elements. Okay, similarly if I talk about the id, for id you simply need to write hashtag. Okay, so whenever you are targeting any id, you need to write hashtag id1. Okay, so whenever you are targeting any class, you need to write dot the class name, and then about suppose if for the id you can simply write hashtag id1, then you can use the same properties, the format is exactly same. Okay, but suppose I also want to just target an element. For example, we actually have an h2 tag, just an h2 tag, and this is h2. Okay, this is h2, so you can see this is h2, and suppose we have one more h2 tag, for example. So you can see, suppose if I want to just target element directly without any class or id, so I can simply say h2, and then if I write this, so you can see I don't need to write any dot or hashtag sign. Whenever you are targeting element directly, you just need to write the element name, and then you can just give the color. So you can see I already gave this h2 a color and it looks fine. Okay, so that's how you can actually target those elements first of all. So I hope you first of all understood how to give properties. Okay, very basic properties.